Hello everybody. Whenever we travel to any abroad destinations, we are advised to carry dollars to further exchange or even use in that country. Have you ever wondered why? The US dollar is the official currency of the United States, its 9 dependent territories and also 7 other different countries like East Timor, El Salvador, Ecuador. But why is it so? Let's dig deeper into why the US dollar is the global currency and occupies 61% of all foreign bank reserves. What is a global currency? A global currency is the currency that can be used without any set borders internationally for all kinds of transactions. The 1913 Federal Reserve Act. This established the economic stability in the US by introducing a central bank which will oversee all monetary policy. When World War I broke out, several changes happened all over the world. Political alliances changed, government finances deteriorated globally, debts increased all over the world. Majority of the developed countries were pegging their currencies to gold in order to stabilize their foreign exchange. But with the war, countries suspended using the gold standard and they shifted to the use of paper currency in order to meet their military expenses. This in turn devalued their currencies. Britain continued to follow the gold standard till 1931. Before 1944, UK's pound sterling was the global currency. The US did not concern itself with the alliances and events in Europe. Mostly unscathed by the war, the US was a neutral party for the first 2.5 years of combat. The economic boom came primarily from exports. The total value of US exports grew from $2.4 billion in 1913 to $6.2 billion in 1917. As a result, the US became the lender of choice for many countries that wanted to buy the US bonds. When Britain abandoned the gold standards, all the trades of the merchants who were transacting in pounds were destroyed. Hence, the dollar replaced the pounds as the leading international global currency. Similar to World War I, the US entered the World War II also quite late after the combat began. Before it entered the war, the US used to serve as the Allies' main supplier of goods and weapons. Most of the countries were paying in gold, making US the owner of the majority of the world's gold by the end of the war. This made a return to the gold standards impossible by those countries because it has already depleted its resources. Delegates from 44 allied countries met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire in 1914 to come up with a system to manage foreign exchange that would not disadvantage any country. The delegation decided that the world's currencies will no longer be linked to gold but will be pegged to the US dollar. That's because the US dollar was itself linked to gold. This arrangement came to be known as the Bretton Woods Agreement, which established the authority of a central bank which would maintain fixed exchange rates between their currencies and the dollar. In turn, the US would redeem their US dollars for gold in demand. Countries had some degree of control over currencies in situations wherein the values of their own currency became too weak or too strong relative to the dollars. They would buy or sell their own currency to regulate the money supply. US dollar was officially crowned the world's reserve currency and was backed by the world's largest gold reserves thanks to the Bretton Woods Agreement. Instead of gold reserves, the country started accumulating US dollars. Now needing a place to keep these US dollars, they started buying US treasury securities which they considered to be a safe haven for money. At the same time, because of the deficit caused due to the amount spent in the Vietnam War and also the Great Society Domestic Program, along with the increasing need for the US treasury securities, the US started flooding their markets with the paper currency. With growing concerns over the stability of the dollar, other countries began to convert dollar reserves into gold. The demand for the gold was such that President Richard Nixon had to intervene and de-link the dollars from the gold, which led to the floating exchange currency rate that we see today. This was a period of stagflation, which is defined as the high inflation and high unemployability rate, but US dollar still remained the world's reserve currency. What is the situation of the US dollar today? US dollar still remains the world's currency. Central banks held 61% of their reserves in US dollars during the fourth quarter of 2020, according to the International Monetary Fund. Most of the reserves are in cash or US bonds, such as US treasuries. Dollar-dominated debts outside the US continues rising with levels reaching to $12.6 trillion as of mid-2020. So, most people would believe that this will make the dollar as the strongest currency in the world, but that is not the case. According to CMC markets, the dollar is the 10th strongest currency in the world. even though people are much more dependent on it and it holds a position in the global market. The Kuwaiti dinar is ranked as the strongest currency in the world, with the British pound and euro earning the 5th and the 8th position. Despite large deficit spending, trillions of dollars in debts, and the unbridled printing of the dollars, the US Treasury securities remain the safest way to store money. The trust and the confidence that the world has on US dollars to clear its debts makes it the most redeemable currency for facilitating global commerce. Which country's currency do you think could be the next world currency? Series of alternatives has been proposed that could replace dollar as the world currency. The euro is the most used reserve after the dollar, and this could replace the dollar if economic conditions prevail. But the European Union lacks a central treasury unit which could make it difficult to become the world currency. China's renminbi could suppress the US dollars, a goal which the country is so keen on realizing. The use of the renminbi is slowly increasing all throughout the world. Can India become a reserve currency? For Indian rupee to be valuable, the demand for the Indian rupee should increase. This can happen when we have the number of exports to be greater than the number of imports, a good investment climate, like more foreign investments, and a stronger domestic economy to avoid any capital reversal flows. To become the global currency, the Indian rupee should be fully convertible to other currencies of the world. All countries should be able to accept the Indian rupees for capital account as well as trading account. Also, if any country demands, the Indian currency should be able to convert itself into gold. At present, currencies like the Japanese yen, the European euro, or the Chinese yuan is being used for the foreign exchange market. In the future, the Indian currency could be treated as a freely convertible currency when anybody can do export and import from India and foreign countries without any restrictions. But this is a long goal that is to be achieved. This is a goal that India wishes to reach by 2047 when India reaches its 100th year of independence. Becoming a global currency would help India in aligning the fiscal, monetary and the economic policies. If India becomes the global currency, there will be low interest rate. Let's hope India prospers and realizes its dream of becoming the global currency by 2047. Thank you.